5 are going to give our reaction on a case study about where did the first cry of rebellion happened. But before we start, I am going to ask you this question first. In your opinion, what is the first cry of rebellion? Ang unang sigaw ng rebelyon ay ang unang hakbang na ginawa ng mga Katipunero upang ipahayag ang kanilang pag-aaklas laban sa mga mananakop nating mga Espanyol. When we hear someone says the cry of rebellion, the first thought that comes to our minds is the tearing of cédulas of the Katipuneros. What really is a cédula? Well, a cédula is a community tax certificate or sertipiko ng buwis pampamayanan that is given by the Spaniards to the Filipinos. Cédula symbolized the chain that shackled the Filipinos to a life of subjection and misery under the Spanish oppression. What really is the first cry of rebellion, and where did it happen? Shall we call it the cry of Balintawak or the cry of Pugadlawin? Come on, join our journey as we unveil the secret behind the first cry. Momentous events swept the Spanish colonies in the late 19th century, including the Philippines. Journalists of that time referred to the phrase El Grito de Rebelión or the cry of rebellion to mark the start of these revolutionary events, identifying the places it happened. In the Philippines, it happened in August 1896, northeast of Manila, where they declared rebellion against the Spanish colonial government. The original plan was to start the revolution at the end of August, but following the arrest of the Katipuneros, the Katipunan Supremo Andres Bonifacio found it wise to start the revolution that day and attacked Manila at the end of the month. They began it with tearing their cédulas and proclaiming the start of the fight for independence. The revolt later grew in strength and spread to 8 provinces, including Manila, Bulacan, Cavite, Pampanga, Tarlac, Laguna, Batangas, and Nueva Ecija, which eventually represented by the 8 rays of the sun in the present Filipino flag. These events are important markers in the history of colonies that struggled for their independence against their colonizers. The controversy regarding this event stems the identification of the date and place where the cry happened. Is the cry of rebellion called as Sigaw ng Balintawak or Sigaw ng Pugadlawin? Well, let us find it out. Sit back, relax, and listen carefully as the reporters discuss about the different accounts contains the dates and places of the cry.
Dr. Payo Valenzuela's account, an official of the Katipunan and a close associate of Andres Bonifacio, approves to many events concerning the Katipuneros. He stated in 1948 that the cry happened in Pugadlawin on August 23, 1896. According to his account, the first place of refuge of Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, Procopio Bonifacio, Teodoro Plata, Aguido del Rosario, and himself was Balintawak, the first 5 arriving there on August 19 and him on August 20, 1896. On August 22, 1896, the first meeting of the 500 members of the Katipunan was held at the house and yard of Apolonio Samson at Kangkong. Aside from the person mentioned, among them were Brescio Pantas, Alejandro Santiago, Ramon Bernardo, Apolonio Samson, and other views were only exchanged and no resolution was adopted or debated. On August 23, 1896, at Pugadlawin, in the storehouse and yard of Juan Ramos, over 1,000 members of Katipunan met and carried out considerable debate and discussion whether or not the revolution against the Spanish government should be stated on August 29, 1896. Tudor Plata protested and fought against a war. After the tumultuous meeting, many of those present tore their cedula certificate and shouted, "Long live the Philippines! Long live the Philippines!"
Santiago Alvarez account. A Katipunero and son of Mariano Alvarez, leader of the Magdiwang faction in Cavite, state that the cry happened at Bahay Toro in Quezon City on August 24, 1896. In 1927, a pre-World War II Tagalog weekly magazine named Sampaguita began publishing the Katipunan memoirs of General Santiago Berreta Alvarez, Nandagari, Kidlat ng Apoy, one of the leaders of the Cavite Revolution, Quezon City, Ateneo de Manila University, 1992, with an English translation by Paula Carolina Malay. The first cry is found in chapter 6 of the memoirs. The account is devoid of any dramatic description, as it is merely a narration of the events that happened in Bahay Toro on August. According to his account, on August 21, 1896, they started their trek at about 11 at night to go to the house of Brother Apolonio Samlan in Cancun. August 22, 1896, the Supremo Andres Bonifacio began assigning guards. To the boundary, no less than 300 men assembled at the building, but the Supremo is restless due to the fear of sudden trick by the enemy, so they decided to move to a site called Bahay Toro. August 23, 1896, they arrived at Bahay Toro. Their number had grown to more than 500 in the house, yard, and warehouse of Cabezang Melchora was getting crowded with the Katipuneros. August 24, 1896, more Katipuneros came and increased the number to more than 1,000. The Supremo called a meeting at 10 o'clock that morning inside the barn with the presence of Dr. Pio Valenzuela, Emilio Jacinto, Bricio Pantas, Enrique Pacheco, Ramon Bernal, Pantaleon Torres, Francisco Carrion, Vicente Fernandez, Teodoro Plata, and others. After the adjournment of the meeting at 12 noon, there were shouts of "Long live the sons of the people."
The Guillermo Magsangkay's account. A Katipunero. His account is about his expenses as a member of a revolutionary movement. In an interview with the Tribune magazine, he said that the first cry happened in Balintawak on August 26, 1896. During the American era, the government and the civic officials used his account in order to fix the date and place if where did the first cry happen, capped with the erection of the Movement of the Heroes of the 1896. However, on August 29, 1957, his narrative suddenly changed. In an interview with the Bagong Buhay newspaper, he once again stated that the first revolution began on August 23, 1896, having the same assertion as to Dr. Valenzuela. But his granddaughter, Soledad Beler Borromeo, changed it back on August 26, 1896. She cited some sources, including the Magsangkay's papers. So why do you think that Magsangkay suddenly changed his perspective? He first said that it happened on August 26, but then lately changed it, and he stated that it happened on August 23, 1896. So regarding of that, let's further elaborate and discuss his accounts. According to his account, on August 26, 1896, a big meeting was held in Balintawak on the house of Apolonio Samson. Among those who attended are Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, Aguelo del Rosario, Tomas Rehimio, Bricio Pantas, Teodora Plata, Pio Valenzuela, Enrique Pacheco, and lastly, Francisco Carrion. Lahat ng mga pangalang nabanggit ay di umano leader o pinuno ng Katipunan. They are the ones composing the board of directors of the organization. Not to mention that the delegates of Bulacan, Cavite, Cabanatuan, and Morong, or the presently called Rizal, are also present. About 9 o'clock in the morning on August 26, 1896, the meeting was opened with Andres Bonifacio presiding and Emilio Jacinto acting as the secretary. Ngunit, hindi ba kayo nagtataka kung ano ang purpose ng meeting na iyon? The purpose of that meeting was to discuss kung saan at kung kailan nila planong ganapin ang kanilang pag-aalsa o pag-aaklas. Sumang-ayon ba silang lahat sa ideyang ito? Lahat ba sila ay nag-agree? No. There are 3 persons who opposed to that idea. Namely, Plata, Pantas, and Valenzuela. They stood firm to their arguments and reasoning, stating that starting a revolution too early, without having an adequate time to prepare, could distress the people. Sensing that he would lose in the discussion, Andres Bonifacio left the session hall. He talked to the people waiting outside regarding of the results of the meeting of the leaders. He then appealed to them in a fiery speech. He said that, "You remember the fate of our countrymen who were shot in Bagumbayan. Should we return now to the towns? The Spaniards will only shot us. Our organization has been discovered and we are all marked men. If we don't start the uprising, the Spaniards will get us anyway. What then do you say?" "Revolt!" the people shouted as one. He then asked the people to give a pledge that they were to revolt. And here comes the famous line from the Katipunan, the punitin your cedula term. Andres Bonifacio then said, "If it is true that you are ready to revolt, I want you to destroy your cedulas. It will be the sign that all of us have declared our severance from the Spaniards." With tears in their eyes, the people, as one man, pulled out their cedulas and torn them to pieces. It was the beginning of the formal declaration of the separation from Spanish rule. When the pledge of the people was obtained by Bonifacio, he returned inside and informed them on what took place outside. The people wants to revolt. They destroyed their cedulas. So now, we have to start the uprising. Otherwise, the people by hundreds will be shot. There was no alternative. In spite of the protests of Plata, Pantas, and Valenzuela, the board of directors voted for revolution. And when it was decided, the people outside shouted, "Long live the Philippine Republic!"
The account of Lieutenant Oligario Diaz. Lieutenant Oligario Diaz is an officer of the Spanish Guardia Civil. Ibig sabihin, isa siya sa mga sundalo noon na naglilingkod sa mga Espanyol. He stated that the cry happened in Balintawak on August 25, 1896. The information was given by the persons captured by the Spaniards after the discovery of the Katipunan or surrendered. Ang mga impormasyong nakuha niya ay mula mismo sa mga Katipunero na nahuli ng mga Espanyol o kusang sumurrender. Taking advantage of the amnesty offer extended by Governor Blanco to the Filipino rebels. According to his account, on the 23rd of August 1896, Bonifacio moved to the barrio of Balintawak followed by 200 men from Caloocan. Sa kanya, si Bonifacio ay lumipat mula sa Caloocan patungo sa bayan ng Balintawak na sinundan naman ng kanyang 200 na mga katipunero. On the 24th, the Guardia Civil attacked the outskirts of the said town. On the 25th, more than 500 members attended on the important meeting that the Supreme Council called. It was held in the neighborhood. The meeting started with a discussion about what course to take. Sa pagpupulong na yon nila pinagpasyahan kung kailan talaga nila gagawin ang pag-aalsa laban sa mga Espanyol at pagkatapos pinagbotohan nila ito. An overwhelming majority approved Bonifacio's proposal. After the big meeting, the message that on the 30th the Katipuneros were to strike at dawn was sent to Manila, Cavite, Nueva Ecija, and other provinces.
The Gregoria de Jesus, the wife of Supremo Andres Bonifacio and Dela Cambini of the Katipunan, she was the custodian of the secret document, sale, and some weapons of the Katipunan, and constantly risked her life in safeguarding them. According to her version of the first cry, it was occurred near Caloocan on August 25, 1896. After the outbreak of the revolution, while Bonifacio and his men gathered in the hills of Balintawak for the War of Liberation, when warned that the Spanish authorities were coming to arrest her, she fled to Manila and later joined her husband in the mountains. She did the hardship and sacrifices of the patriot's life with him. According to her account, when the activities of the Katipunan had reached nearly all most of the Philippines archipelago, at the time it was existing was discovered, and some of the members were arrested while they immediately returned to Caloocan, watched by the agent of the Spanish authorities. Andres Bonifacio and other Katipuneros left to do town some days. It was then that the uprising began with the first cry of the freedom. On August 25, 1896, as the wife of the Supremo of the Revolutionary Movement, she was treated like an apparition in every house where she tried to get a little rest, and she got driven away because of the people scared to get Spanish by the Spaniards.
The personas we mentioned are the eyewitness when the first cry of rebellion happened. From the accounts presented, there is indeed a marked disagreement among historical witnesses as to the place and time of the occurrence of the first cry. Using the accounts, 5 places have been identified: Balintawak, Kangkong, Pugadlawin, Bahay Toro, and Caloocan. While the dates vary, 23, 24, 25, or 26 of August 1896. According to Guerrero, Encarnacion, and Villegas, all the places are in Balintawak, then part of Caloocan, now in Quezon City. As for the dates, Bonifacio and his troops may have been moving from one place to another to avoid being located by the Spanish government, which could explain why there are several accounts of cry. Since 1908 to 1962, the cry of Balintawak was celebrated every 26th of August. In 1963, the National Historical Commission, or today's National Historical Commission of the Philippines, or NHCP, decided that the following extensive research of the primary sources, the first cry of the Philippine Revolution of 1896 happened on August 23, 1896 at Pugadlawin, now part of the Project 8 in Quezon City. That's the end of our reaction on case study about where did the first cry of rebellion happen. I hope that you learned something from us. As a Filipino citizen, I don't want the history to repeat itself because we are here to make a history, not repeat it. Thanks for bearing with us. Hope you enjoy our journey. Good night!